very dramatic.
Hey everyone! Welcome to a very, very special live. Normally I just come on and talk about whatever, but today I have lots of good friends with me and we are going to talk about 2020 movies. Finally, 2020 is almost over. And there were so many movies we were supposed to get this year and didn't, but there were still some good ones. So we're going to talk about them. But first I'm going to introduce you to my friends. So next to me we have Marshall, aka Movie Marshall. And then we have Amy from As the Bunny Hops.
Hi.
You guys all know Crazy Amanda Reacts, my BFF. She's been on here multiple times. And then we have Tanya from Lola Lamb Chops.
Hello.
And we're going to get right into it. Hey, Ted and Alicia. Hi, guys. Alicia says there's only 19 hours till the end for her. She's in Australia, guys. So she's closer to 2021. All right. So first up, we're going to start with number 5. So for me, I'm
right to it. All right, let's
right to it. Listen, I'd say 99.999% sure I'm the only person who has this on my list. I did it out of pure being biased, and I had to. I think it's very similar to the comics. I loved it, and it was also the first movie that I saw back in theaters when I was on vacation. It's The New Mutants. I had to give it some love. I don't think any of you are surprised that this is on my list. I thought it was so great. I loved almost everything about it. It was so similar to the comics. It mixed the comic book feel with the fear and horror, which of course are two of my favorite genres. It's got some incredible actors in it. Of course, we've seen Anya Taylor-Joy now in, what is it called? The Gambit, right? And she's so good in everything she does. Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, Henry Zaga. I mean, you guys all know. And it's directed by Josh Boone. I absolutely adored this movie. You guys can watch it video on demand on Vudu or Amazon Prime. But what did you guys think of The New Mutants?
I actually loved The New Mutants. I saw it at a drive-in. It was my first drive-in experience since I want to say I was like 6 years old. I live in Los Angeles, and theaters have been shut down basically since middle of March. And so just getting a chance to sort of see something that wasn't at home was really fun. But I would actually say that if we were doing top 10s, I would probably put The New Mutants in my top 10. I was surprised. I thought it was everything you said. I completely agree.
See, I'm not crazy. Amanda made a face when I said it.
You know, I don't like the scary movies. So, like, there ain't going to be no scary movies up on my list. And those guys with the no faces and all, no. But, I mean, other than that, and I thought it was good. And I think it was, too, the first movie I saw during the pandemic.
I think the timing was... Most of us, it was.
I think maybe that probably has a little do. I mean, it's not totally off my list. It's not on my top 5, but I'm just saying because of the scary stuff. But I think probably has a little piece of your heart too, because like you were like craving to see a movie on the big screen, you know, and then you finally get to.
And this one, we waited so many years for The New Mutants.
We waited longer than the year 2020 was.
Tanya, did you see it?
I mean, it's it's not my cup of tea. Like, I don't like scary, and I don't like monsters, and I don't like
13. It's not that scary.
Well, it's just the dark side of Marvel, you know? Like, I like that's why Captain America is my favorite, because
she likes America's butt.
Listen, it was Lori's favorite movie of the year. She's my 7-year-old. Like,
literally every movie she sees is her favorite movie of the year.
She sees it; it's her new favorite. Although she did ask to watch The New Mutants after watching Wonder Woman. She said, "Can I watch The New Mutants?" I was like, "Yeah, yes, you can."
To cleanse the palate.
All right,
we're watching the New Year's Eve. 1984 or the original
Well,
Wonder
in
Woman?
1984.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Okay.
She needed a palate cleanser. All right, Marshall, what's your number 5?
All right, so I will say that there's actually, and I did not do this on purpose, there's a theme to all 5 of my favorite films of 2020. And I've seen many, many movies. And as you said, so many of the movies that I expected to be my favorites didn't come out this year. So those will hopefully come out next year. But all 5 of my favorite movies this year are directed, written, and starring women. So I thought that was kind of a really interesting looking at last night, and seeing that so many more female directors are out there and studios are producing these movies with a female sort of led character. That it was kind of a nice surprise to be able to see. But my 5th favorite movie of 2020 is the remake of the 1983 movie Valley Girl, which the original one starred Nicolas Cage. I know that Tanya did not like this movie at all. I remember watching it at home, unfortunately. It was supposed to come out 2 years ago. I remember this movie was announced. It's supposed to come out summer of 2018. Logan Paul had some controversies. He's in the movie. I think those controversies have been gone since he did promotions for the movie, but they held the movie. They kept it away. They finally released it during the pandemic. I remember watching it and having so much fun. It is basically, like I said, a remake of the 80s version, set in the 80s, except this one's a jukebox musical, has so many really fun songs that the cast sings. We got The Beat, Kids in America, Tainted Love, Material Girl. The movie stars Jessica Roth, who is from the Happy Death Day franchise. She basically plays a character named Julie who does everything her parents want her to do. She's, a straight A student. She's going to go to college where they want her to go. She has all the perfect friends, but then she meets this guy. He's a newcomer. His name is Josh Whitehouse. He plays Randy. He's the bad boy. And she realizes that she needs to kind of live her life through her own voice. So it's a really, really fun. It's on Hulu and Amazon Prime streaming for free. It's also available on video on demand. You can buy it on Blu-ray. It's just a really fun movie. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts. I know Tanya saw it, did not like it after I recommended it to her.
I didn't see it, but I'll have to check it out.
Marshall raved about it. So I'm like, okay, let me spend my money and pay this, because how much did it cost to rent that?
$19.99, I think, back in May when
Tanya's remembering that she paid $20 for that movie.
Okay, I will say this. I didn't hate it. Like, it's a musical, so pretty much any musical will get on my good side a little bit. And I like the soundtrack, like Marshall said, but it was so cheesy. And I think, which Paul brother was it? Logan,
yeah.
Okay, that's right there is what ruined it in the first place, because he was in it and he's a total blah. Like, so that's probably so if he wasn't in it, maybe I would have liked it better, but it wasn't bad. But it didn't make my top 5.
All right, fair enough. I can agree with everything you just said. Like I said, it was the middle of May of the pandemic, and I hadn't seen anything really fun, and it just sort of watching it was just fun, and that's why I think I needed that in that moment. So that's why I stand by. It's in my top 5.
Okay.
I haven't watched it, but I'm the OG original. Did they even, so a musical that wasn't the original? Did they even have to gag me with the spoons and all that?
She's ready to watch that. Like, where's Nicolas Cage?
I know. They just took the name. It ain't even about nothing. A remake. They just took the name then.
I mean, it's about a girl who lives in the valley. So yes, but
that's why it's called Valley Girl.
Streaming on Hulu, streaming on Amazon. Amanda, I think you will actually have a lot of fun with it.
Check it out.
Yeah. Alicia Silver.
It's free now.
It's got a great cast. Tessa
Logan Paul
from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in it. I think it's really all these actors who are like definitely not 17, 18 years old are playing high school students. So it's really kind of fun, like picking this to it. But I highly recommend if you just want something that's lighthearted and fun. It's PG-13, so don't watch with the little kids. But if your kid's a little bit older, then you're good to go.
It's fine with Amanda's kids.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right, Amy.
Okay, so I feel like I finished out 2020 watching like really horribly depressing, terrible movies. And when I say terrible, I mean like terrible things happening. And in case of that one Tom Hanks movie, just terrible. But even though I gave that 3 stars, it wasn't horrible. Okay, anyway, I'm going on.
This is number 1.
News of the World is not on my list.
No honorable mentions.
Not even an honorable mention. That's a dishonorable mention. No. But I was like, okay, I've got to have at least one of these like horribly depressing. So I was thinking about like the movies that just I couldn't get out of my mind and I wanted to talk about. And you guys got to like kind of heard me like live messaging this movie when I was watching it. Never, rarely, sometimes, always. I thought that movie, I mean, it's horrible. It's depressing, but it made me think so much. And it feels like it's going to be a political movie, and it's not. It just kind of told what was happening. And I see Amanda's like rearing up, like, I'm ready to talk.
I haven't seen it. I was going to try to watch it because you guys were talking about it, but I didn't.
I mean, it was just so well made. It makes you think. It doesn't, I mean, I think people would argue that it takes a side. I don't think it takes a side in anything. It's just kind of presenting it like, it's so frustrating, but like to make you get that mad and that frustrated, you have to care about the people in it. And Sydney Flanagan, I think that's her last name, who was in it as the lead. She was just so good. Like, I was feeling for her the whole time. Like I said, it made me mad. It frustrated me, but I thought it was really good. And it's on HBO Max. Go, Amanda.
Well, I'm just going to say she's like, I'm tired of all this depressing this movie. And then you're going to pick the most depressing.
I have to have one on my list. The rest of them,
that's the worst one. I know no more. That one's the worst one.
But it got in my head, you know? Like, movies are supposed to make you feel. It made me feel some things.
I agree with you, Amy. It's not the kind of movie that I would sit there and be like, oh, I can't wait to rewatch. Never, rarely, sometimes, always. But it is a movie that is really well made. It's going to be appearing on, and it already is appearing on so many top 10 lists of the year. It's definitely going to be talked about for award season. The screenplay is already being talked about with the Oscars. I'm sure it's going to be, sweeping the Independent Spirit Award nominations. But like you said, it's a movie about abortion. But it tells such a real story of how difficult it is to get an abortion today when it shouldn't be. And I know it's a very political conversation, not for this group and this topic right here, but it's something that is very timely and important for people to know, and to see a movie like that, to see how difficult it is when, someone is just trying to take control of their own life.
Bam.
Now here's Amanda to tell you about her number 5 that had somebody really hot in it.
My number 5. I picked Onward.
Oh.
Because I think this is the only like cartoonish animated one even on my list. And I was like, I love some anime. I want to have one on the list. And that was the movie, I think, too. It surprised me because it was one I wasn't even that looking forward to. I was like, oh, that looks weird with the unicorns and all this. And then I saw it and I was like, that was so like they always get you the motion and just the story. It was
about to say, Amanda's feeling something because she saw it with Tessa and me.
That's what it is. It's
you're bringing your like love for us into your select. I enjoyed it too.
Ronnie says his number 5 is also Onward.
Oh, look, Ronnie knows. And actually, it's the only one on my list that I actually got to see at the movies, like on the big screen. So maybe it's that too. I'm like, there's not many that. But yeah, that was on my. Oh wait, it's on the Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has the Chris Pratt and the Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is in it, Amanda. What's Spider-Man?
Holland. Yeah. See,
Tom
I know.
Hollandaise. I was expecting you to say that.
I think I was just so surprised by it too, because that's what I said. I wasn't expecting like much when I saw it. And actually, of all the Disney movies I've seen this year, that was the one I liked the most. And
I liked it a lot. I know Tanya, did you not like it? Or you had some issues with it? I'm trying to remember.
I had some issues with it, yes. I didn't hate it, but like, listen, the crop is low for things to pick from this year. So sure, have it in your top 5. Knock yourself out. That's good.
Amanda, I will say that it is, if we were doing honorable mentions, Onward would be an honorable mention. And I agree with you. I think that the movie it doesn't look like something that you necessarily are, especially if you're not into fantasy and those sorts of characters. Yeah. It's not the kind of movie that you'd be like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. And I will say that the first half, you don't appreciate until you get to the second half.
Yes.
So people might put it lower in the rankings of Pixar movies, but I absolutely think that, I agree with you. It's a great movie, and the ending is so emotional and so powerful, so well done, and it doesn't get the credit it deserves.
I think that was my big problem with it, was the ending. I am so mad that he did not get to see his dad. I get why.
Tanya. No, I'm just
Spoilers! Listen, that movie came out with plenty of time for people to watch. Okay, and so that was my problem with it. Like, I really liked the emotion. I felt the comedy was great. The story was great. But I get why they did it, but I was so mad that he didn't get to see his dad. Like, yeah, Barley, I get it. You were his fake dad, but like, let the boy, both of them, see their father. Come on.
Tanya.
Yeah.
He got to see half of them. He got to see half of them. That's enough. Well, let's hear yours, Tanya. Well, I want to hear your number 5. Let's go.
Okay, so just to preface this, so the rules for picking these movies were what? No snacks allowed.
Wait, what did she say?
No snacks.
No snacks were not allowed on the list. What was the other rule? It had to be at least 40 minutes long.
40 minutes long. Can't be a short.
Can't be a short.
Can't be a television series.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I think this
is not hard for rules.
Can't be a half-eaten cream cheese pretzel.
So I think this qualifies. Anyway,
I don't think it was very strict rules, Tanya.
Okay, so my number 5, which came out in 2019 in Australia, but 2020 in the US, was H is for Happiness. I don't know. I
almost have that on my list.
I know Marshall did not like this movie.
No, you guys told me to watch it. I watched about 10 minutes, and I was like, do I have to finish? And you were like, no, and I was like, goodbye.
So I just loved it because there's this little girl, Candace Fee, who, what is she like? She's like 11 or 12. And like her parent, like she's just going through some stuff. And then she meets this friend, Douglas Benson, from another dimension who says he's come from like another dimension and that's her only friend. And like the other kids don't like her because she's super quirky and happy. And anyways, I just loved it because it's adorable. And it reminds me of those movies like Strictly Ballroom that are quirky and that are just underappreciated. But it was just so like, I don't know, Candace Fee, she's just so infectious. Like I love, and I think I had just watched maybe another Netflix movie that was about the same age group. I don't know if it was Cuties or something else, but I was like, okay, this is what 12-year-olds are supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And not that other mess. So anyways, it's just, I don't know. It just made me happy. And like, there's some stuff that goes on, like her family, like her sister had died. And so the mom was just kind of checked out because she was going through this trauma from having a child die. And so she just wants to save her family and she just wants her family to be happy. And anyways, I loved it. H is for Happiness.
It was on my list when got to the weeding out point to knock it down to 5. That was on my list too. I know we've got people from Australia who are watching now who can tell me I'm very wrong on this. When I think of Australian movies, that's the kind of movie I think of because I think of that and Strictly Ballroom and Muriel's Wedding and things like that. And it was that very kind of like bright and like over the top and fun, but like with some really dark stuff happening underneath all that bright happiness. And that's kind of my jam anyway. So
yeah.
Did it have a dingo in it?
Oh my gosh. What did you think when the boy bought her those like inflatable boobs though? They did handy. I was like, I wonder what Tanya would think of that.
It was so random, like, and bizarre, but like it kind of fit Douglas Benson from another dimension personality. So
like my one complaint about that, I felt like the ending was a little too neat. Like it was like going along, I loved it, and then all of a sudden the ending was kind of like, oh, everything's resolved. Okay.
Yeah.
Without like it wasn't really earned. But other than that, I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great too. All right, we're on to number 4, you guys. Okay. So this one is one I've actually watched twice now because when I was making this list, I wanted to watch it again just to kind of, I'm weeding it down. So is this going to make the list? Is it not? but it's Uncle Frank. I really, really liked Uncle Frank. I love Paul Bettany in this, but also Peter McNeese was so good. Like, he stole the show for me. I love his character. He's so fun and funny. It's also got Sophia Lillis and Steve Zahn, of course, Judy Greer as well, who was hilarious at the end. But it's a movie about a guy who's been closeted like all his life. I can't think of it. Do any of you know how old he actually is supposed to be in the movie? He's in his got to be in his 40s, right?
I would say probably around like late 40s, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hasn't come out to his family, and then his niece ends up finding out and kind of says, you've always told me to be who I am, and it's set like a ways back, like in the 70s, right? Is it in the 70s? I think it is.
I think so. I
think it's the 70s, and Ted makes me laugh. He says, the dingo took my baby. That's your fault, Amanda.
Dingo ate my baby.
73?
1973.
Yeah.
In Creekville, South Carolina.
And it was just so good. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it all the way through. I think Paul was great. But for me, Peter McNeese really stole the show because he was so understanding of what Paul's character was going through, I think. And I kind of loved when they would fight like so intensely, but then he would
was that his partner?
Back down. Yeah, that was his partner. He was I think he was probably my favorite character. Mm-hmm. And I just loved that movie. And you can watch it on Amazon Prime Video. But what do you guys think about it?
It was on my honorable mention list.
Yeah.
I liked it too. Like it almost made my top 5 that I had to write the honorable mention list that they won't let me talk about. But I agree. And I'm right with you. Like the part, I didn't remember his name. But I think I was even like looking him up, when I was watching it, like, what else is he in? And
yeah,
I thought he was great.
He was really, really good. I enjoyed it.
I think it's a great movie. It's not my top 5. It's not an honorable mention, but I did think it was a great film. Paul Bettany and the whole cast was great. And I am always for more stories of inclusivity and representation. Being gay myself, is one of those movies that you have to remind yourself. I came out almost 20 years ago, but that's still at that point, in the early 2000s, when things are fun, things were better. And clearly, in 1973, if I came out when I was 17, and let's say he's 47 when he came out, that's a huge difference. It's a huge chunk of your life that you don't get back, basically. And movies like this have to remind my generation and the generation after me and so on and so forth, that, it may be kind of acceptable to be gay now, but in the 70s it wasn't. And the moment you say out loud that I'm gay to your family, everything changes. Mm-hmm. And in the movie, his family kind of knows, and he knows that they kind of know, it seems, but no one ever talks about it. But yeah, it's so important to remember how difficult it was to be yourself and to be gay, back then, and you can't take it for granted if you're part of a later generation.
I think that movie brought out all the emotions too, because it reminded me things when you're talking about it. You break your heart. But remember, I wanted to kill that dad.
Oh, you and I were talking. We were.
I was like, I'm gonna find him and I'm gonna do stuff to him. Like that. You want to talk about emotions? Depressing, Amy. The rarely, the Uncle Frank had me raging.
I know. Did you see it, Amy?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I haven't seen it either.
Amazon Prime, go watch it.
Amazon Prime.
Okay.
On the list. I'm going to watch everything that you talk about that I haven't seen yet. Immediately after finishing this.
For happiness, I'm just saying that right now.
You need to give it a chance. I watched Valley Girl. You can get through Ages for Happiness.
And I paid for that. You got to watch Ages for Happiness for 10 minutes for free.
All right, Marshall, number 4.
Well, my number 4 favorite movie of 2020 is a movie I actually really love. It's called The High Note, with Dakota Johnson from the 50 Shades franchise. This movie is nothing like 50 Shades. It also stars Tracy Ellis Ross, who obviously everyone knows from Blackish. And the movie is basically about Dakota Johnson's character. She plays Maggie, and it's her dream to become a music producer, but she has been sort of stuck playing the assistant to Tracy Ellis Ross. Tracy's character is Grace Jones, and she's basically playing a version of Tracy Ellis Ross's mom, Diana Ross, in the movie, who's this sort of huge singer, but hasn't really done anything in the past 10 years. She's kind of a catalog artist. People know her from all of her songs from years past, hasn't really done anything. And Dakota Johnson's character wants to revive, Tracee Ellis Ross's character's career, producing music for her, and really kind of bring her out to a new generation. The movie's really fun. It's definitely a comedy, so you will laugh the whole time, but it's got some great serious moments too. And the music is fantastic. The soundtrack I listened to basically all summer long. The movie came out the end of May. I watched it in June. It is available on VOD. It's also on Blu-ray. I bought the Blu-ray because I love the movie so much. Soundtrack, like I said, is great. Once again, written and directed by females, which is something that I think is very important in 2020, that we're seeing that trend. And yeah, I don't know if you guys liked it, didn't like it, but it's my number 4.
I would have liked the movie so much more just about Tracee Ellis Ross. Like, she was my favorite part of it. If they made a movie about her, I would have been like, it would have made my top 5. I just loved every second of her. Dakota Fanning?
I mean, every time that Tracee Ellis Ross is on screen, and the fact that she's not really being talked about,
it's not Dakota Fanning.
Awards,
it's Dakota Johnson.
It's fine. She absolutely deserves to be in the competition for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars. But I agree that her character was, every time she's on screen, she steals it. Her singing voice is just as good as her mom's. I totally agree with you that should have been the focal point of it.
And it has the Ice Cube.
It doesn't Ice Cube.
Yeah, so I was like, if it had more Tracee Ross and more Ice Cube, I liked it a lot. Plus, the ending, it had one of those little twists. You were like, well, I don't want to spoil it.
Don't spoil it, because I'm hoping.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah,
but it had a little ending twist too. That I always like a little twist. I always like.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can see them coming, but I like when I can't. And I was like, oh, okay. So I enjoyed that one too, and I was with you. I like the music and stuff in it. And didn't she say? Because she's like Diana Ross she's like a singer too. Does she sing all the songs? I don't even remember.
All the songs. I don't think I've ever heard, and I could be wrong, Tracee Ellis Ross singing before. So her playing this role was just such a nice surprise. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know her as this great comedic actress, and the role definitely has a lot of comedic tones to it. But no, she just shows a different range that we've seen before. Mm-hmm. And you look at that and say, that is Diana Ross's daughter, 100%.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and she had a lot to go off of too. She grew up, watching.
Right.
Yeah, and she definitely said that, she's not steering away from I didn't use my mom's inspiration whatsoever. I don't know Diana Ross, but I would imagine that Grace Jones is very based off of Diana Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Ted gave us $2. He says he wants to see us fight over it. Thank you, Ted.
Not for $2.
They tell them all 20 cents. Or I don't know.
Not because of Fanning.
Yeah. What's the number 4?
Okay, so I wanted to pick another really dark and depressing. For number 4, I was just like, a movie that I just enjoyed the whole way through, even though it was kind of long, and I just thought was super fun. Was Enola Holmes.
Oh,
I almost picked that.
Oh, yeah.
I love
that. Was on my 8 when it was 8, and I had to narrow it down. So
I love a costume drama. I love a Henry Cavill. Millie Bobby Brown was great. I just thought it was really fun, and I am there for anything with Helena Bonham Carter. I think she's nuts, and I love her for that. And it was so good and fun, and it felt kind of like the beginning of a series, and I want it to be that. And
that is my only problem with the movie, is that I think it's really fun, but so many movies, like the first movie sets up to the rest of them, and you're like, can I just see what happens next? That's my only problem with the movies, that it felt like it was a setup for the movie I really wanted to see.
I can see what you mean. It's definitely a setup for it feels like a setup for a series. So you're like, it's the first one, and
it definitely did that.
Highlight of the show,
It's funny because normally I feel like Netflix has a really bad history with setting up a lot of stuff, knowing what's coming next, and cliffhangering all their series, and assuming that there's going to be a season 2 or a sequel or whatever, and that kind of drives me crazy. Normally, I just like this one so much it didn't bother me that much this time.
Well, because there was still a resolution of like
exactly.
Yeah, and so Enola Holmes is actually higher up on my list.
Okay, so we'll let you talk about it when you get to it.
Okay.
I mean, Amy likes those boring movies, and I can see what that makes her list. I like the Emma and all those. I mean, I liked it. I liked the Helen Bonham and all, but it was just slow on part. Like it could have been.
Don't even correct her, Tanya. Just let her go.
It could have been a lot shorter. It put you to sleep.
Amanda keeps saying I love Emma. I don't love Emma.
You like Emma.
Is Emma on your number one?
I like the Gwyneth one.
Emma's her number one.
All right, what's your number 4, Amanda?
Yeah. My number 4 is Emma. Now, Emma, and I'm mad because when we were talking about our list yesterday, Amy kept being like, "This on your list, this on your list," and I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be on my list." Borat. Number 4. Starring Rudy Giuliani and Sacha Baron Cohen.
I am surprised this is not your number 1.
I know. I'm just shocked it's number 4. It feels low.
I love you can't. I mean, what do I have to say about Borat? But it's just great, Especially, I think this takes a little something special for him to come back with a show, and everybody already knows who he is. That's the thing about his characters. You know who he's playing and stuff. So that right there, Sasha needs to get some kind of award. That's my. Oh wait, and you can see it on Amazon Prime.
I agree with you, Amanda. Borat, subsequent movie film, the sequel to the original, was the fact that no one even knew it was coming out until a month before. It was really fun. The fact that they were so dead set on having come out right before the election. They're like, it's supposed to be in theaters, but we have to release it where the most people can see it on Amazon. Like, it's definitely in my top 10. Really loved it. Sacha Baron Cohen is great. And then the girl who plays his daughter, Maria Bakalova, who is definitely getting tons of recognition for that role. And I truly do think that she's going to be nominated at the Oscars for Best Supporting Actress.
She should be.
Like, the movie is so much better than it should be. And it's funny. and
that's the thing. They didn't even
put it in my honorable mention for sure.
They put it on Amazon Prime free, right?
I know.
You have to buy it. So like,
they didn't even. Oh man, the whole movie. The baby part just kills me.
when he's taking a dump on the trunk.
That
was my favorite part.
I hated it so much.
Did you even watch it?
No, well, I had to skim through and fast forward and whatever. So, like, can I say I really watched it? Probably not. But I just, same thing. It's not, I don't like crass humor. I don't like it at all. Like, it's not funny to me. It's not, like, I like witty, and that stuff isn't witty to me. It's just very, like, in your face, trashy. And I will say, like, I do appreciate Sacha Baron Cohen, like he's trying to prove something and like prove a point and do some good. So I give him props for that. And like you said, like the fact that nobody knows that it's him, like he is a great actor, but it's just too trashy for me.
Like some of it is like taking the dumps and wearing the mask, right? But then you gotta say some of his humor too, like when he was quarantined with those one guys, right? I mean, that right there was like he got them to say some stuff, and that it wasn't even him trying to be just over the top or anything. He just had to sit back. But that's genius. That's genius. You can't tell me.
I liked him better in the trial of the Chicago 7.
That's my honorable mention.
Amanda, I will say with Borat, the fact that they shot the movie, like a year ago, they're shooting it, and then they hadn't finished shooting it and the pandemic hit. Like, that to me is an achievement of filmmaking and storytelling, because they had to change their entire ending of the movie of what they wanted to do when the pandemic hit. So I think that right there, the fact that they were able to sort of like switch gears and still make an absolutely hilarious movie, I have to give them credit for that too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They had to completely change everything. So, and they did it flawlessly, seamlessly.
Yeah. Seamlessly. For happiness, Tanya.
All righty, Tanya. Number 4.
My number 4 was Mulan.
Oh.
I mean, it holds a special place in my heart because it was the last like premiere that we all went to. And then also, like, I don't know, kind of like Marshall, what you're saying about movies directed by females and stuff, and like just about the movie. I liked the changes that they made, like I love the animated version and I love the musical aspect of that. But I liked this like tougher live action Mulan. And I actually recently rewatched it on the plane ride back home. And like I felt myself crying again, just like in the scenes where the dad talks to her about like, basically about squashing her chi, essentially, because he's so worried about what his ancestors think. And I just love that message so much, that you can basically be who you want to be. And, and traditions don't necessarily have to stand in the way of being proud of your family and who they are.
I mean, it almost made my list too, Tanya. I liked it too. And I think though we maybe are biased to it because we were able to see it on the big screen.
Right.
Because then when I rewatched it, just watching on TV, I'm like, it was still great, but I'm like, it lost a little bit. Just like the imagery and the music with it and the whole thing, like just made it on the big screen, that I think it might have been appreciated more if people got to see it on the big screen.
I think it would have been for sure. But then I watched it with the girls, and the girls were like super into it. And I think not having seen it on the big screen helped them enjoy it more. Like if they had seen it on the big screen and then on the little screen.
Yeah. But I was sitting next to Perez Hilton's like daughter. And she's the cutest thing ever, but she kept talking to me during the film. And I'm like, I'm trying to watch. And she's just like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to watch.
I mean, I think you guys are right. The fact that we all got to see the movie on the big screen, which is so rare, because obviously the movie was meant to be seen on the big screen, and visually, I think that it's clearly the most stunning movie. I think that any movie has come out this year, doesn't stand, can't even stand next to it. The cinematography, the production design, the costumes, the makeup, all of that is absolutely beautiful. It's a really, really great movie, and especially knowing that Disney has created so many live action, retellings of their animated films, I think this one holds up completely to the rest of them. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I liked it a lot.
It was on my list and then got bumped out for more depressing stuff.
It's an honorable mention.
It got bumped out for that sad, rarely sometimes.
That was a solidly good movie. Everybody needs to be depressed by real things.
We've had enough depression in 2020. We don't need more. Speaking of, my number 3 is The Devil All the Time. I went back and forth about this one, but I really, really liked it. I watched part of it the other day when I was fixing up my list, and I thought, you know what, I really love this. I think Tom Holland was fantastic. I love him. Sebastian Stan, Robert Pattinson. I mean, you got an all-star cast. Bill Skarsgård. And it was so good. And I forgot how much I really liked it. And I liked that there's all the different stories going on at the same time, but coming together. And I just love Tom Holland anyway. And you can watch that one on Netflix for free. It's still there. I just watched it this week. But I know there was a book too. And I ended up reading part of the book. And I think I had liked the movie more. But I know a lot of people told me they liked the book better, which usually they like the books better. But
so wait, what are we supposed to do if we have a match?
Yes!
We have a match. It's not my number.
Yours is number 3.
Bingo!
No, it's number 2. Mine is number 2 of that.
So,
I love that one so much.
I know it's just so, I really, really liked it. I love the end. And
I think it's too because like I tell you before, like I love a twist and not knowing what's gonna happen, and I liked it too. Am I supposed to say that? Was I supposed to say that it was on my list, or I was supposed to wait? I forgot our rules. I forgot.
You can share
Too late.
I think you weren't supposed to give the place it was on your list. But
Glenn, close enough.
Exactly. If anyone's going to mess it up, it's going to be Amanda. We're okay.
And you can watch it on Netflix. Stars. Yeah. Tom Holland and Edward So
and Edward Cullen, he doesn't sparkle in this one. I thought Robert Pattinson was so good. His role was small, but so good in this one and so powerful. And I saw a thing, I actually tagged you in it on Twitter. Did you see? Someone was comparing his character to Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 84. And I went, oh yeah, like I can see that. You'll have to look at it on Twitter. Yeah.
I'll have to look because I wouldn't have put them two together.
No, but then you'll see. Look, I tagged you.
Okay. All right. Let me go look. Y'all talk.
Did you guys, right now. Did you guys all watch it? The rest of you?
I watched it. I thought it was a good movie. Honestly, and I feel bad saying this, but there's sometimes some of the Netflix movies, I think because there's so many of them they push out, that I'm trying to remember it. I remember I liked it, but I didn't love it by any means, but I definitely liked it. But maybe I was doing something I was watching it. I don't remember, but
it's long too. I think it's
I remember, and I think it came out in like September. I think at that point I was just tired of being home and I turned it on. And but I do remember, the more we talk about, the more I remember it. And I think the performances, seeing Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson in those types of, and Robert Pattinson doesn't get enough credit for how good of an actor he is, because he makes so many independent and smaller movies ever since Twilight, and that obviously he's going to become the Batman. But he was great. And then Tom Holland, who came with The Impossible, that Naomi Watts movie from a few years ago when he was a kid, all the way up to Spider-Man. It shows his range. So as an acting showcase, absolutely.
What did you think, Amy? You looked like you had words.
Well, I was going to say a confession about this one. It was one of those that I started and I was like, I'm not in the mood for this movie right now. I'll watch it later. And I never came back to it.
Well, now you have to.
But please hop over to Twitter, where I'm sure by the time we're done, I'm going to have tweeted out that picture of me with Tom Holland. So
yes, that's my
she had the name drop.
I can't help it if it's like BFF.
You didn't send your picture ahead of time so Tessa could put it up.
I gotta flex because I'm still mad I don't have that picture of the guy with the Bridgerton who I met and someone that I ever met. And
go on a mission. We'll find it for you.
That devil movie though. It was long, but it wasn't long that I was mad about it.
Right.
Like there was just so much that happened. It was so much and crazy stuff. Crazy, like those the couple. Ooh.
I know.
Remember?
You remember there's the couple that would drive around and like take pictures of seduced men and take pictures of them and then kill them.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh yeah.
Spoiler alert, Amy.
That's like you see them at the beginning because you see the stories all throughout. They're going like side by side. If you watched even a bit of that movie, you would have seen that. You remember?
I didn't watch it. I'm wondering why. I can't remember if maybe because
it might be rated.
Well, usually I'll say, Tessa, can I watch this? Right. And then maybe you said no, and that's why I didn't.
It is pretty violent.
Well, you probably, I mean, the pictures they took of those guys were.
If you can get past the violence, it is a really solid story and it's smart storytelling, so you might like it.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Is there naked people? There's naked people, right?
Listen, after Bridgerton, like, and having to fast forward all of that mess, like.
It's a good point.
That's the thing that's blowing in my mind now, realizing that I've met that guy. I mean, like, I met you and now I've seen you naked.
Oh, boy. All right, Marshall, what's your number 3?
All right, my number 3 might be a little bit surprising. This is the only one on my list that actually got to see in the theater. But I remember that is not my
last movie I've seen in the theater. Please don't let me die.
So I remember, but this was pre-pandemic. This was just me sitting in the theater, enjoying the experience, and being really, really, really pleasantly surprised. My number 3 is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. I am not the biggest DC fan. I much prefer Marvel movies, as people should.
You're not wrong.
Because when we saw Margot Robbie playing Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad from a few years ago, it was not what I wanted it to be. I don't think it was what anyone wanted it to be. The story wasn't great. She was not center, where she probably should have been, knowing that everybody wanted that character. And so having her have her own movie It was just fun, and the side characters, Rosie Perez and Hugh McGregor, everyone, Journey Smollett, everyone was just so good. It was a fun movie. I love the colors. I love the action. Directed by Kathy Yan, who I think is going to have a huge career as a director. Yeah, I definitely really loved it.
It made me want an egg sandwich, like really bad. It's like that looked so good.
Yes.
I definitely liked it more than I thought I would too.
Yeah.
Like that one, and they were doing so much promotion, right? I was just like, oh, must be gonna be bad because all this promotion they're doing, but I was surprised how much I liked it too. And it was just like a fun, you don't have to think too much, just sit back and enjoy it. And that's what, she's the only good character from that Suicide Squad, right? Like the only that was from that movie. So I guess to do a movie for her.
You know how I feel about Suicide Squad.
I mean, I think there's the thing. The biggest problem that DC has is the scripts are just never good. If you can't tell a good story, then don't shoot the movie. Go back and figure out the script. And Birds of Prey, the script worked, and her character worked, and I think I think that's the biggest takeaway from DC is that you have to focus on the script. And if your script is good, your movie will be good. And I like the script. I thought it was really fun.
Mm-hmm. I did too. And I think it's setting up for more of Birds of Prey because they have their own comic. And so hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I read yesterday that Margot Robbie said there's currently no plans to make a Birds of Prey sequel. I know that she's going to be in the Suicide Squad sequel next year. And the movie didn't do great at the box office. I don't know necessarily why. Because like you said, Amanda, they did so much publicity and promotion for it. But yeah, it's fun. Maybe that was because people didn't like Suicide Squad. So I don't know if people will then, just don't care about the characters much. But
that's what made me nervous about this movie is that I didn't like Suicide Squad so much, and Harley's one of my favorite characters from the comics. So I was like, please, I can't have another awful Harley. And I don't blame Margot Robbie for that. I think she's got to do what's on paper. But I liked her a lot. The character a lot better in this than in Suicide Squad. A lot better.
I think, and I can look this up right now, but I think she was actually a producer of Birds of Prey, so maybe that's why she was able to get. I'm looking at it right now just so I don't incorrectly. Yeah, she was a producer of this one, so clearly she was able to have more of a voice, and her voice made a difference.
I think it definitely did. I saw a significant difference between Suicide Squad and this one, so I liked it. It probably would have made, if I did a top 10, it would have made my top 10. Probably.
Yeah.
I love Margot Robbie so much.
I did not, because DC Comics movies are like pulling teeth for me, and I watched Wonder Woman.
Here's the thing. Wait, what'd you say about Wonder Woman?
I watched that one.
Here's the thing, Tanya. So, and I should also mention that Birds of Prey is streaming on HBO Max, so you can watch it for free if you're a subscriber to HBO Max. I will say that the movie was rated R. It shouldn't have been. There was a couple of scenes that made it R. Take away those scenes, and you have a perfectly great PG-13 movie that didn't need to strive to be something that it wasn't. I do recommend, if you get a moment, to go and watch it. I think that you'll have a lot of fun with it.
Okay.
Try it. Just try it.
Listen, if you watch H is for Happiness,
I'll do it.
I'm good. You don't need to watch it.
Oh man, Amy.
Okay, so this is fun because this is a movie I watched last night for the first time. I was doing the thing where you go through and you're looking at what are all these movies that I haven't seen yet to make sure that I'm giving a fair shake to everything. And it was on HBO Max, Bad Education.
I haven't seen that.
It's Hugh Jackman, Allison Janney. It actually came out. It was a festival film in 2019, but then HBO bought it, and so it was released this year on HBO Max. But it is the true story, or based on a true story, of a Long Island school district where the superintendent and the deputy superintendent, who is Hugh and Allison, embezzled $11 million, and there is a girl. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She was in Blockers, and she was in Broken Hearts Club or Gallery.
Oh yeah,
I believe that she was in it as a student reporter, and she's actually kind of the one. This was a little bit embellished for the movie. She's the one who kind of broke the story. It reminded me a lot of The Big Short, which I loved.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of like real thing that happened, kind of funny, the way they present it. I mean, there was no Margot Robbie talking to you from the bathtub, breaking the fourth wall. None of that in it, but that kind of like, but kind of that real something crazy happened, and it's kind of, you know, it's like bad. Obviously, they stole $11 million of taxpayer money from school children, but you know, done in a kind of fun way. And when it had Anna Lee Ashford in it too, as one of the people who worked at school. I love her. And just it was a great cast, and it was fun for a crime story, and it gave that little thing I always love when there is a true story, and then at the end, credits, they don't show the people, but they were like, "This is what happened. This is what."
Amy loves that.
I like that too.
I like it too.
Makes you so mad when you see what happened.
Whenever I see stuff, I'm always like, "This Amy's gonna like it." Amy, guess what? In the credits, they show.
Yeah,
and then
I
Amy
want
goes,
to know what happens to the people.
That's why safety's my number one pick. No, I'm kidding.
Did you see Operation Christmas Drop? They show real people in the credits in that one.
Oh, that one was.
Amy, I will say that I saw Bad Education. I liked it. I thought it was really fun. I remember watching it because it came out on HBO back in like April. It at the Emmys, it was nominated for a few in the TV category. It won the Best TV Movie Emmy. So clearly, you know, it has its fans. I liked it. I didn't love it only for the fact that, and I hate saying this just because I love him so much, I thought Hugh Jackman was kind of awful in it. I thought he was playing such a caricature of a character that it completely took me out of the film. And I think that for a story that crazy, because like that's a crazy story, that it needed someone better fit for that role. And I love Hugh Jackman, so I feel bad saying that.
It's so funny that you say that, because that's like one of the things I call out all the time, where I'm like, no, they were too much of a caricature, and I didn't feel that about him at all.
All
so
right.
It's so funny that you're calling that out. That was why we had our disagreement over Happiest season, because I felt like half the cast was a caricature. Yeah, so that's one of those things that like drives me crazy, and I call out all the time. So funny, but yeah, no, I thought it was really fun, and I always and this is such a random little thing. I remember hearing an interview with Allison Janney after this, and she was talking about how pissed off she was. She was not getting a premiere because Hugh Jackman is one of the only men she's ever worked with that she is shorter than. And she was so pissed off that she wasn't going to be able to walk a red carpet and be shorter than the leading man. So, that's a random bit of trivia for you for that one. But.
How tall is he? He don't even look that tall.
He's got to be over 6 feet.
Yeah, he's got
6 feet, I would think. Yeah.
I saw him in concert when he.
That's right, you did.
Went around for the Greatest Showman type tour.
If I'm recalling correctly, you gave mixed reviews.
It wasn't that good. The Greatest Showman was better.
Well, Amy, you just watched that last night, and it was your number 3. So
yeah, okay. Sorry, wolfwalkers.
Sorry, wolfwalkers.
You had to go. I love you, but you had to go.
What was your number 3,
Amanda?
Number 3? Oh, okay. Oh, here. My number 3 pick is Yes, God, Yes.
I have that. Listen, it was all. No, listen, I had that and I booted it just because I was like, I have to include the New Mutants. But it would have been my number 5. I loved that movie. And then I also was like, Tanya's on here, and I don't want to have to talk about this movie with Tanya on here.
Well, okay, so I've heard about this movie. Is it streaming anywhere? Can I watch it? Because I haven't seen it.
You can watch it now for free on Netflix. I saw it when it was on the video on demand.
We saw it on video on demand.
And
when I found out what it was about,
that's why I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
I like
the literal synopsis.
I didn't know if I was a little biased too, because I grew up in Catholic school like my whole life. Went to Catholic high school, like everything.
Really
and so I was like, oh, like I felt at home watching it. But I mean, it has, wait, I wrote it down. The girl from the Stranger Things, Natalie Dyer. Is that how you say her name? Natalie Dyer?
Sure.
The girl from the Stranger
And it has the girl from the 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
The one who got by the Bryce, I forget her name. Aisha Bo. Right? And
You're
the
description of these
girl, it
people.
was about a girl, like kind of like the sexual repression in the Catholic, the Catholic school, and she's like discovering her sexuality, and they go off to this camp, and it's really good.
They're basically told, you're not allowed to explore yourself. Mm-hmm. Then she finds out maybe people are a little, what's the word, hypocritical.
Because what did she call the priest looking at the pornos on the computer? But it was really.
This is why I didn't have it on my list. I was like, I don't need to talk about that. Amanda found I shouldn't have been surprised.
I will not watch Ages for Happiness, but I will definitely check out Yes, God.
You haven't seen it? Oh, you gotta watch it.
I honestly kind of forgot about it, so I'm really glad you guys are talking about it, because it was something that I remember watching the trailer for, being like, I probably would think this would be funny. So thank you for the reminder.
It was funny. I think it had some funny moments. Message. Yeah.
Of like, it's okay and natural and be yourself and blah, blah, blah.
I love that Marshall's like, I'm not going to watch like a quirky Australian girl, but I will watch a priest looking at porn. Okay.
Yeah, and
I didn't know you was gonna watch it. I wouldn't have gave that spoiler then.
I don't have any problem with movies that talk about religion or talk about being hypocritical, or like even making light or making fun of things that are over the top and stuff. My problem, and I can't really discuss this because I haven't seen it, so right. I can't really discuss why I don't like something I haven't seen, but we'll just leave it at that.
So it's you then. What's your number 3?
So my number 3 was The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yes.
That was good.
On Netflix.
That would be in my honorable mentions.
It was my honorable mention.
Why do you like it so much? I'm so curious.
I like it because I like these stories that kind of, basically when I was asking you if I can include Just Mercy in my 2020 list,
right?
Because I like these stories that cause you to really think about where you stand on a certain side, like whether, when you're seeing two sides of a story, they always say that it's like, there's always 3 sides to every story, one, and then the truth. And so it's just, I don't know. I thought the acting was really good. Like Eddie Redmayne, I love him a lot. Even Sasha. Yeah. All the acting was good. And it's just it caused me to think and look about what's going on in this country too. And the conversation about police brutality and where we stand on things and who is innocent, who is guilty. And I just thought it was really well done. And I like movies that are based on true stories too. It's, I don't know. That's my version of trashy TV, versus I
enjoyed it too, because I love a movie when I can learn something, learn. I was like, oh, that really happened. And when it makes me start Googling it and finding out the real story. Me and Marshall was talking about the Gloria too. It was that kind of thing. I'm like, what? I didn't even know anything that happened. So I really got into just the story of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it causes you to Google, did this really happen? No, this couldn't have happened. And
I feel so bad for saying this. I did not like that movie at all. And it's honestly for kind of the reasons you guys are saying that you liked it. And here's the thing, the fact that you guys all loved it, I think is great. And I think it's going to be nominated for Best Picture. It's going to, definitely be talked about at the Academy Awards. And that is fantastic. For me, I will preface this by saying I literally watched this movie less than a week after I had binge watched 147 episodes of The Practice. So when the 7, I was all trialed out. I was like, where is Bill McDermott? Where is Laura Flynn Boyle? Who are these people? What happened to my cast? So that right there, I'll preface and say that it was the exact wrong time for me to watch it. But I felt like while I was watching it, that there was so much more to this story that I was Googling and going to Wikipedia and being like, I feel like we skipped things. I mean, in the end, we literally it like faded to black, and then it was like 9 months later, and I was like, and some of the 7 were no longer on trial. It was going on. I had to Google so much to learn what really happened that they couldn't show on the screen. To me, ruined it because I felt like a story like this. That is so important, and Tanya, I agree with you that is still being talked about today and still mirrors what happens in today's society. I felt it deserved more attention to that, and it should have been a mini series and not an actual movie because I wanted more. I felt like if this was like a 10-episode series and every episode was like kind of like from the point of view of somebody in the 7 or from the trial. I mean, the fact that 2 of the 7 we never even hear them talk. You know, so
well, I think that was the point. That was the point, though. They were just the 2, like they weren't supposed to be there. It was just that it was exactly their roles. Why they said they were there for no good reason, like just so that they could acquit them and get them out of there. And so, no, I agree with what you're saying. Like, yes, would I have liked more story, like backstory and everybody? 100%. But you're not going to have. I think movies like this have to be made though because you're not going to get people who are going to sit and watch a 10-episode miniseries. Like, they're not.
I think that miniseries right now are the hottest thing out there. I think that people crave miniseries right now because they don't want the commitment of, like a 24-episode season of a show. But, like a movie itself is the kind of thing that you sit there and you're like, okay, like while you're doing laundry, but like a mini series, especially one that like you have to tune in for the next episode. I mean, you saw people were with like The Undoing or The Flight Attendant. People were like going crazy for that.
Yeah, but this is also 2020. Like, yes, there's a binge, but it has to, if it was like this and you can't have stories that are going to keep if you don't throw in some sex in there, people aren't going to watch it. If you don't throw in this in here, people aren't going to watch it. And that didn't have it. And so.
Well, look how good those stories with the OJ and the people against the OJ and like. And
that is trashy. That is trashy drama TV. Like, no, this was different.
But you can make a great mini series though, based off of something that's so important, like the trial of the Chicago 7. And here's the thing: if Aaron Sorkin, who is one of the greatest writer-directors ever, I mean, he's so brilliant with everything that he puts on the page that goes on the screen. I just felt like he did himself a disservice and he did the story a disservice because I think that I think you have to give people's attention spans, especially in 2020, when all they want to do is consume product, that I think that there was more of the story. I mean, the fact that Bobby Seale's story alone is buried and touched on. And
I would have liked more of that.
That is its own movie in and of itself. I think that they did the movie a disservice, or the story a disservice, by shrinking it to something that should have been 10 hours into 2 hours. That's all.
Oh,
I really, really liked it. It made me cry, like that end part as it faded out, or I liked that part. I don't want to give it away if people haven't.
I mean, I really liked it. That I would agree for me, just because I would wanted to see more. Like I would have, and like I said, like
I really liked
the other stories.
The acting was just Sasha blew me away. Like to see him do Borat, and then that is like. He's very talented.
Listen, all I'm saying is this was on my top 5. Valley Girl was not.
Yes, Tanya.
Now you're making me be embarrassed about Valley Girl. I had the trial of Chicago 7. And I can't believe you chose Tanya Award nominee, and you chose a Valley Girl.
You like what you like. There are no wrong answers unless your list includes news of the world.
News of the world. That's my number 2. No, that would have been a good segue though. But Amy did mention my number 2 earlier, not as part of her list though. Wolfwalkers is my number 2. I really loved it so much. It's so beautiful. The hand-drawn animation. It caused my family and I to go back and look at several different Cartoon Saloon movies. It guts that. It's like the new Studio Ghibli, or however, I don't know how you actually.
The Irish Studio Ghibli is what
it is.
And it's so true. So true.
Oh, it's so good. It's just absolutely beautiful. If you have Apple TV Plus, you can watch it. But I've watched it almost fully 3 times now because my girls keep putting it on, and they're, so I'll walk in, and every time I walk in, I get like sucked into the story. I've seen it, but I like watch a good solid like half hour of it. It's long, but I love the story. I think also getting to talk to the directors and writers about it and learning some of the fun facts about it. But like the fact that it used to be, because there's two girls are the main characters, and we learned that one of them was a boy for like the longest time, and they changed that because they felt the interaction between them would be better. So it made me appreciate it more. I think, even though I already loved it after the first time, learning stuff like that made me really, truly appreciate it. It's just gorgeous to look at. And man, it's just it's great. I think it's fantastic. Amy, why did you said it
was on my list until the very end. And then, like I said, Bad Education bumped it off. And like I say, I'm an animation nerd. So the fact that they did traditional 2D animation in it and had some special effects mixed in with that to keep it up to date. But I loved all the rough lines in it. It was so cool to watch. Even I think my review, I think I started it saying you have to watch this movie twice, once to look at it and once to listen to it.
I completely agree with you.
I mean that as a compliment, even though it sounds like it might not be, because I just think it was like so visually stunning. It took a view to catch that, and then another one to actually catch the story for me.
Yeah, like when the wolves are standing there, you can see like the sketch lines inside the wolves. I loved that. I love that.
I don't know I can't remember where this came up, if it was something I read or when we were doing the interview with them or when it was, but I remember apparently they had some animators working on that who were so neat and tidy in their work that they actually had to go back in and rough up.
Oh no, really?
That's like the coolest little nerdy fact about it.
Yeah.
Some people who are just very precise and stuff, they're like, no, this isn't working for this. We're gonna have to.
Because it's beautiful, but like the story's really good too. Like it's so great. I know. Has everybody else seen it? Marshall, have you seen it?
I saw it. You're making me want to go back to rewatch it. I liked it.
Did you see it to watch it, or did you see it to listen to it the first time?
I think I saw it to watch it because, to me, the story. And here's the thing: I don't think I'm the audience for it. I will say that I've seen The Secret of Kells. I've seen Song of the Sea. I've seen a lot of the cartoon saloon films before. They're not my favorite. When I watch animated films, I think I'm more trained for the Disney Animation, Pixar, DreamWorks brand of them. But visually, it was absolutely stunning to look at. It makes you miss hand-drawn animation. But yeah, I don't think I was the audience for it. I also didn't. There was elements of it. Like, I think that you guys know my thoughts on The Witches, which I was not a fan of how that movie ended, the Anne Hathaway version of it. And Wolfwalker, having seen this around the same time as that, I was not necessarily a fan of how the end was. But I'm also not the audience for it. So I will say that it's beautiful to look at for sure.
Amanda did.
No, I really liked it. Like, I liked it. I think it's one of those movies I watched. I was like, oh, that was cute. But like I said, like when you learn more about it, I was like, oh, they had to do all this to make this movie. It took them time. Well, then you appreciate it a little. I was like, oh, they drew it. They had to draw by hand. What did they? Like that makes you appreciate it a little more. But I guess I'm just, those movies aren't ones I would normally flock to.
Yeah.
She likes Borat.
Stuff.
There was no Borat. There's no Borat. Maybe if the wolf would have went and took a dump on the Trump Tower.
Oh boy.
Keep it classy.
That was horrible.
Did you get to watch it yet, Tanya?
I started it.
It is long. It's also 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's that kind of thing too. Like, I mean, I think it's really pretty and everything, but it just hurt my eyes sometimes too. Like,
I hated it. Just say it. Say I hated it.
There are no wrong answers.
I can't say that I hate it though because I didn't finish it. So
it's one of those you have to be in the mood to watch it.
Yeah,
you definitely
do.
And I think it was the wrong time to start. So I'm gonna do it again though. I need to and watch it with the girls. I didn't watch it with the girls. So
yeah, see, I find a lot of stuff, especially like that. When I watch it with my kids, I can appreciate it more because they're laughing at certain things or they'll point out certain things that I don't even notice. And so
and I watched it too. I think I enjoyed it more because Bella, and she's like my daughter, really into anime. She loves like mostly like the Japanese, those kind of anime and stuff, but she was like so into it. So it was nice to like watch something with her that she really enjoyed. So
And they sent banana bread.
that was some nasty banana bread. I think the wolf took a dump in that.
It had like chocolate chips in it.
He had corn. All right, we're number 2. Wait, speaking of number 2, what's your number 2?
I'll be right back, you guys.
She'll be gone for a while.
Oh my god.
Okay, my number 2 is a movie that it's kind of cheating, but it's not. So the movie technically had a limited 1-week qualifying run this year, this month. And then it opens in theaters, assuming theaters will be open, or hopefully soon thereafter. But it will open February 19th. The movie is Nomadland with Frances McDormand.
I want to see that so bad.
So basically, nobody's been able to see this movie except for Marshall, and it made his list.
We got good commentary, but whatever, fine.
All right, I'm adding a snack to my list now.
I will say that I have been very disappointed, unfortunately, with so many of the Oscar, contenders that have been sort of put out there. I was not a fan of Mank. I wasn't a fan of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I didn't like, so many of those movies, Trial of Chicago 7, as I mentioned, First Cow, I thought was boring. And so I went into watching Nomadland, and I expected to be bored. I expected not to like it. If you watch the trailer, so the movie's basically, so Frances McDormand, she plays a character named Fern, and the movie takes place in 2011 after the recession of like the 2008-2009 recession that happened, and she lives in this small town, this is true, that basically the town no longer exists. They removed the zip code. It was a town that basically was a factory town. The factory closed, so they made everybody kind of leave. And her husband had passed away a couple of years before this, and she didn't know what to do with her life. And she didn't really feel like she fit in anywhere, so she kind of becomes a nomad. I mean, not kind of, she becomes a nomad, and she buys a van, and she just lives in it, and she travels America, and she meets people. And the movie is so visually stunning. Every shot is a painting. It's directed by Chloe Zhao. She did a movie a couple of years ago called The Rider, which I wasn't really a fan of, but it definitely made a lot of top 10 lists. She directed Eternals, which comes out next year, the new Marvel movie.
Eventually.
Yes, eventually. But she right now, the movie is the front runner for Best Picture of the Oscars. And once you see it, you can see why it's a journey. And I think right now everybody's been stuck at home and nobody's gone anywhere except for Tanya, who goes to Disney World all the time. I'm calling you out for it, but it's okay. I wish I could get the world as well.
But I wear a mask.
Right.
But no, so you go on this journey across this country and you meet all these people, and Chloe Zhao, it's truly directorial achievement, because other than Frances McDormand and then David Strathairn, who has a small supporting role, the movie is completely made up of actors who are not actors. They are true nomads. So it's just random people that kind of make these characters that Frances McDormand meets along the way. And to direct people who have never acted before, who aren't even necessarily part of traditional society, and you get some of these truly amazing performances from these people. It's a breathtaking movie. I cannot recommend it enough. It absolutely deserves to win Best Picture at the Oscars next year. And I think that it's going to pleasantly surprise a lot of people.
I mean, I've seen it on all the lists.
Yeah, me too.
All the lists. I'm like, what is this? But when can we actually see this?
So February 19th, it comes out in theaters. I don't know what the rollout plan is going to be. So it's hard to say. I'm hoping the theaters will be slowly being reopened by then. And like so many other movies that have come out this year, it absolutely deserves to be seen on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's from all the, like last night I watched so many movies that are being talked about for Oscars. I was very lucky that a friend lent me some screeners. I watched Ammonite, the Kate Winslet movie. I was kind of bored by it. I watched Minari, which people have been raving about it, and it just didn't sit with me.
I heard a lot of good stuff about that too.
Yeah, I wanted to love it. I think it's a beautiful movie. There's a lot of controversy right now with Minari, because the Golden Globes have put it in the foreign language category, but it's truly an American story. I can see why people love it. It just didn't resonate with me. But Nomadland, it completely sat with me. I watched it, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've been thinking about it ever since. It's a great film. I think you guys will all love it. You just have to sit when you watch it. You don't have your phones out. Really sit with it. You embrace yourself in this world of nomads, and I think you'll really appreciate it. I will also say, and this is I don't want to spoil anything, but you will never look at buckets the same way after watching this movie. So
Does
I
this
will
have to do with
I've had friends in the Peace Corps. I'm just saying.
But yeah, Nomadland, my number 2. Catch it in theaters, hopefully in February.
No one can add anything because none of us have seen it.
I mean, that's what I said. I've seen it on every
I've seen it on every list too.
And
Yeah,
I'm
me
just
too.
like, what is this movie? So I'm excited to see it.
I know a few people overseas who got screeners, but
Yeah, and
I
I
don't know
love
where to
Frances
find it.
McDormand. So
Yeah.
all right.
All right. Amy,
Okay, so for me, for number 2, have to preface this with saying, like, I watched this movie when I was in a very dark place.
oh geez, here we go.
Oh, mercy.
No, give
Emma.
me a second. I was just having a horrible week, horrible day, horrible week, horrible month, horrible 2020. I was just not mentally healthy when I started the screener, and it fixed something broken inside of
I got
me.
snacks.
And that movie is Soul.
So okay.
So there's something about that movie that just like really I don't have a soul mug. I have a plushie somewhere. But like when I watched that movie, it felt I said the movie, it felt like a hug. It felt so warm and so comforting. And the first time I watched it, I was like, Pixar movies usually have me like ugly crying. This didn't have me ugly cry. It moved me. I felt something. I watched it. It was great. It like I said, it fixed something broken inside of me. But I was like, it didn't make me ugly cry. And then when it came time, how you'll go back sometimes when you're getting ready to write a review, and you're like, oh, I need to watch something again.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't want to spoil. I mean, you've had a chance on Disney.
Spoil it. It hasn't been out that long.
It's been out for 5 days. I don't think this is a spoiler, even though it's later in the movie. There's a scene when the character Joe Gardner is playing the piano, and he's got all these little kind of things in front of him that have special meaning, and he's just playing, and he's in the zone. Watching it the second time, I was sobbing. I was just like, that's so deep. That's so mean, and just like it had so much more meaning the second time around, because I think I was no longer in that really dark place where it was kind of fixing broken me, so that I could like watch it and just enjoy it.
Now
it broke me in a different way. And I know a lot of people, and I think this is so unfair because Pixar has a habit of making really good movies. And I know a lot of people have been like, it's not my favorite Pixar. That is such a BS critique of a movie.
Right.
Like, if you like the movie, you like the movie. Stop comparing it to Toy Story and just take it for what it is, and don't pay attention to the fact that it's Pixar. And just, if you like it, you like it. If it was well made, it was well made. If you don't, you don't. And then go from there. But yeah, so
let it out, Amy. Let it out.
Let it out.
I see the little soul guy behind Amanda. She's got him on her.
Oh, she got both of them right there. I see 22.
Where's 22? Oh, I see 22 up top. I got mine over here.
I think probably out of all, though, I think that's a big, possible winner for animated this year.
Yes,
so
I actually think it stands a chance to be nominated for Best Picture, not even just
really.
Best
I think it could.
Yeah, and I think the screenplay, Kemp Powers, who is sort of like a newer talent, but he also wrote One Night in Miami, the new Regina King movie that's coming out. It's a beautiful movie, and yeah, I mean, critics. I will say that I preferred Onward to Soul. It's not that I didn't like Soul. Onward is just more of my personality, but yeah, Soul, it's beautiful, and it absolutely deserves every bit of acclaim that it's getting. And I've read this so many times, but knowing that people keep on saying that Soul is coming out at the perfect time, and Amy, it sounds like it came out when you watch it, the perfect
Kate,
time for you as
I
well.
needed to watch it the day I watched it, so it was
Yeah,
extraordinarily good timing.
when we're all basically stuck sitting at home, or we should be stuck sitting at home. Tanya, and I'm just kidding.
Wear a mask, wash your hands.
I
Tanya's
do
big,
all
listen,
those things. Listen,
and hand
I am
sanitizers.
trying to keep people in jobs, Marshall.
No, you are, yeah. I have
She's
no
doing it
issue-
safely.
Here's the thing: if movie theaters were open, I would be sitting in the movie theater with my
Every
mask
day.
on, with my hand sanitizer. I would be out there.
Would you watch Bloodshot in the movie theater again?
I would watch Cats again in the movie theater. If the movie theater was open. I'd be sitting there
I
with
still haven't
like a
seen
cat
Cats.
mask, some cat ears on. I would be you show me
No.
anything.
No jellicles.
If there was
no
a way for
more
us,
jellicles.
if there was a way for us to all be in the same city, I would totally spring for that. Like, what is it, $99 to rent the AMC
Oh, yeah.
for your
Yeah.
cat
Oh yeah.
for Cats? I would do it.
No.
Tanya,
Amanda's like, I'm good.
happiness if it was playing in the theater. I would sit there and be happy to do it.
I will pay $200. Cats, H is for happiness, double feature. I'll spring for popcorn. It's
Yeah. But I will say, okay, so most people are sitting at home, but Soul is the kind of movie that makes you, because we literally all this year, whether you've been going out or not, no one's able to live their life fully.
Yeah,
And we've
right.
all been forced to sit and reflect and realize what's truly important.
Mhm.
And that's the message of Soul, is that no matter what you think is your passion in life, no matter what you think is important, Soul shows you that that's not what it is, that your life is not comprised of what your job is and what everyone sees you doing on social media. It's so much more than that. So good pick, Amy.
Yeah, good pick. I gotta watch it again. Brett hasn't seen it yet.
No, you
You know,
can
the
do
girls
my
and I
test
watched it.
if when you watch it the second time you like.
I will.
sob
I'll let you
hysterically.
know because
Because
I
it
got
has-
teary, but I didn't like cry. And you guys know I cry a lot, so it was surprising that I didn't. But I had the girls like sitting on my lap. We watched it in my office because we watched a screener, so it was like we were all
Plus,
jammed
the first
back
time we
together.
watched it was like in November.
It was a while
right?
back. Yeah, it was early November.
was-
So
I mean, it's hard to tell when movies are doing well these days because you don't get like the box office numbers and stuff like
I
that.
know.
But just from like my traffic, I was like,
Right.
"Oh, Soul's
Soul's
doing
doing
really
good."
good." You know, from like the traffic I'm getting,
Yeah.
like my Soul's been
I'm getting
like
some
one
good
of the-
soul traffic.
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, people are liking Soul."
I'm
People
glad.
are loving it. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of really positive responses to it. I do want to see it again, and I think Brett, we'll watch it this weekend probably with Brett, because the girls have been asking to watch it again, like as a family. I think they start movies and they watch, half of one, and then they go off and do something else. And
See, I
They
think
wanna watch it as a
I watched it. So Amy, you're making me definitely want to watch it again to see if it can sort of bring out those emotions.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's hard because honestly, I don't think I've cried watching any movies this year. Because it's hard to
I did.
face those.
I cried at
I
everything.
cried watching a sink of dishes this year.
Right? Yeah. All right, Amanda.
Well, we already talked about mine.
Oh,
My
that's
number
right.
two,
Well,
The Devil All the
yeah.
Time.
you got anything else to say about it? You just really liked it. That's good. Tom Holland was good. Twist at the end.
Tom
Crazy. You got to watch it.
Edward. It was really good.
Edward, he
Yeah.
sparkled.
We already talked about it.
All right. Go ahead, Tanya.
My number 2 was one of Amy's picks. It was Enola Holmes.
But we didn't, I had cut you off because I said, we'll talk about it when we get there. Amanda didn't listen, but you can talk about it.
I mean, I really liked Enola Holmes because it's just one of the, like, that was my fun movie to watch. Like, it was one of those that didn't really cause me to have to think a whole lot, but it was just, I mean, I love any female character that is independent and who doesn't need a man and who can stick up for herself, and especially one at that age. And I just think like everybody that was in it, like, oh, so my daughters, I didn't even know. I just found out that Mycroft, so one of her brothers, is played by, and I don't know what his name
Sam
is,
Claflin.
Finnick, in Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And because they were watching Me Before You on the airplane, and so they're like, I would have never guessed that was him. But anyways, it was just like, it's just this, it was a really good movie too, with like the whole tween and teen crowd. It didn't have a lot of garbage in it, which is what I appreciated, because sometimes Netflix movies like to just stick in random sexual scenes or like too much language or whatever. And this one didn't cross a line. It was age appropriate. Like it was just a fun movie. And so yeah, that's why it was my number 2.
I mean, I could see how it's on your and Amy's list.
I like it.
I mean, and that's the thing, as we talk about movies and like we disagree, but that's the thing. Not every movie is made for everybody, and that's okay. And that's why movies are made, is so that they can appeal to the audience in which it's intended for.
And I didn't hate it. I didn't hate that. When I wasn't mad, I even watched it, not one of those where I just waste my time. It was good,
And I always say, and granted, I like to know the Holmes as well, but I always say that everyone's least favorite movie is someone's favorite movie.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who loved Cats.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
No, they weren't.
Have you asked? We have a friend whose husband loved it, remember? I've seen it all over Facebook. I don't want to call people out, but remember? My gosh, it was like every day on social media.
We'll talk about
I'll tell you later.
Offline.
Offline. All right, Tessa, I want to know what your number 1 is.
Oh, number 1.
Number 1. You guys. Speaking of movies that make you cry, I don't know why this one made me cry. But Spontaneous is like my number 1 movie of the year. I loved this movie. I thought it was so much fun. Catherine Langford was amazing. Her chemistry with Charlie Plummer on screen was fantastic. And then her best friend was Haley Law, who I thought was really great too. I just loved the story. And like, it's right up my alley because I love gore and I love random things. And this is literally a story about teenagers who randomly explode, but it's like so much more too, because you don't know why they're exploding. And then there's a love story that develops while they're exploding. And I loved it. And I think she went through so much, this girl, and you see this character arc of her ups and downs. And I don't want to give spoilers in case people haven't seen it, but man, I loved it. I thought it was fun, funny, heartwarming. Like it was just, it's my favorite movie of the year. It really was. I loved it so much. I've seen it like at least 4 or 5 times now.
I was wondering if you were going to pick it because you had it on your thumbnail, and I knew you liked it. But
I had Wonder Woman 84 on there too. I just picked posters that I threw on there.
That was the red herring.
I really liked it too. I thought like the story was something different. I mean, that's one of the ones too. I'm like, I'm tired of seeing the same kind of story, the same this, and it was like, I mean, get a. I don't think I've ever seen a movie of people just spontaneously blowing up, and so I like it.
I just love the mystery of them trying to figure out why it was happening, and is it this, is it that, is it all this stuff, and also the first, I don't know, handful of people anyway that blow up, she misses it. She's like tying her shoe, or she's looking over here, so you don't like see the person, you just see the blood pop everywhere.
So do they spontaneously blow up like in Phineas and Ferb, the Candace movie?
Probably a little gorier. Like they had stuff splatting everywhere. But then
she gets on her chucks, and then she asks the cops for the back, and she goes, "Am I going to get my shoes back?" They go, "Do you want them back?"
I can ask you this. Okay, so 2 things. One, because I know you recommend this. I didn't get a chance to watch it. Is it streaming anywhere that I can watch it?
So it is on Amazon Prime Video for $2.99 and is on Vudu for $4.99. So obviously go with Amazon.
Is it in your Vudu account that I have access to?
I'm sure it is. Yeah, there you go, Marshall. It's in my Vudu account that you
honestly, I completely forgot about it when you mentioned it. But now the fact that it's your favorite movie, I have to go back and watch it. Okay, but I need to ask you this, and don't spoil it by saying anything, but because obviously a movie where people are exploding doesn't sound happy. Is there a happy ending?
I feel like
I don't.
You can't ask that, Marshall. That's totally a spoiler.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a way to word this. Just watch it.
Okay.
It's your number 1. Just watch it.
It has like a really deep meaning to it too, because it really kind of. I mean,
she makes fun of Trump in it.
Well, she does. Yeah, that was a good one. But like it's supposed to really. It's like these people are blowing up in this school, and it's just like the senior class. But it totally goes back to like a meeting of like the gun shootings and gun violence and all that kind of stuff. And these people are doing it, and they're like, why are these people randomly, why are these people, they're trying to get science in it, and why are they blowing up?
They're putting them in those tents, like they're all quarantined.
But it all comes back, I think, like the total meaning is like the gun violence and shootings in school.
And embracing life. And
Okay,
she's a really great quote right at the end too. Sorry. Go ahead,
quick
Amy.
Question that's not related to that actual movie. Is there some kind of rule where if we haven't seen anybody's number one pick, we have to watch it?
Oh, what did you pick for number one? We should. New rule. Let's do it.
Because I'm going to change my number one to H.
No!
I do not want to watch people blow up.
No, you haven't seen it, Tanya? No, it's really good. It's really good. Try it.
At first, when I heard about it, I'm like, that sounds what? Like you read about it too. You're like, what?
I mean, I thought it was weird in cartoon version when in Phineas and Ferb when they started blowing up.
I think I said in my thing, in what world is a movie that randomly explodes so good? But it's like a heartwarming thing. You don't think Tanya will like it? Well,
I'm saying there's harsh language.
I was gonna say there is language, and I think there's a lot of drinking. Try it. Just try it.
Okay.
Tanya. You can get through. Just fast forward through.
I'll try it. Because it's your number one.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate
it. What's Marshall's number one?
All right, my number one. There's a bit of controversy around this film, which oddly enough, I don't know. The fact that this had so much controversy between it, only I think it just stirred conversation. Amy's going to hate me, but my favorite movie of the year is Happiest Season.
I loved Happiest Season.
I don't hate you for that. I just think it had problems.
Okay, so for anyone, have you guys all seen Happiest Season? Tanya, Amanda, have you guys watched it?
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a victim of the pandemic. It was supposed to be in theaters. It is the first mainstream holiday movie about a lesbian couple, which, Clea Duvall, who is an open lesbian, she is an actor. She's been in so many things. She was in Handmaid's Tale. She was in The Faculty. She was in Argo. She was in one of my favorite movies, Identity. She's directing and writing now. So she wrote and directed it. She wrote the movie with Mary Holland, who stars in the movie as well as the sister Jane, who's there for some really fun comedic relief. But the movie basically, it stars Kristen Stewart, who we all used to hate, clearly. Now I watch this movie and I love Kristen Stewart again. I think that she is back, and I'm excited to see what she does next again. But she plays a girlfriend to Mackenzie Davis. Kristen plays Abby, Mackenzie Davis plays Harper, and they're going home for the holidays to Harper's house for the first time, and Abby's going to meet her parents and meet her family, and she has this whole plan that she's going to go home to Christmas and propose marriage to Harper during this time, except she finds out on the way there that Harper has actually come out to her parents. And that right there kind of sets Harper up to be the sort of the villain in the story, because how can she, it's 2020, she's bringing her girlfriend home to meet the family. How can she surprise her on the way there and say, oh, by the way, I told you I came out to my parents and they took it fine. I actually never did. And I can see why people look at Harper and say that she's this villain character because of this. And then you meet Aubrey Plaza's character, who is Harper's sort of ex, and you realize that Harper kind of did, Aubrey Plaza's character Riley wrong. And there's a bit of shipping going on between Riley and Abby, and saying Kristen Stewart should end up with her and not with Harper. I disagree. And the reason that I disagree with all of that is mainly because, and once you get to the part where Dan Levy's character, who is absolutely hilarious in the movie, plays Abby's best friend John. And I also look at this movie as a prequel to Schitt's Creek, before David Rose lost all of his money and
that's perfect.
Because then I'm like, Abby, you and John were best friends. Like, how come you lost all of his money? Either way, so I like that. So John. Dan Levy's character John, he comes into the movie in more a main part in the last third of the film when Abby is just kind of over it. She's over the fact that her girlfriend hasn't come out, that she's living this lie, that she's making her lie about who she really is as a person, because she basically said, she was like, don't tell my family that you're gay as well. And Dan Levy's character gives her this sort of speech when she's ready to sort of end the relationship and says, like, when you came out to your parents, how did they take it? And she goes, my parents were fine with it. And he goes, well, when I came out to my dad, he didn't talk to me for 13 years. So that right there just makes you remember, kind of like we were talking about with Uncle Frank, that if you came out, you know, and if you're this generation, I came out, like I said, almost 20 years ago, you forget what it's like. Before you come out, you forget how your life is different. That the moment you say the words, I'm gay, out loud for the first time, everything changes and you cannot go back. And Love, Simon did this really, really well a few years ago. And it was so great to see Happy Season kind of, you know, continue that sort of storyline where we're looked at to say that Mackenzie Davis's character, Harper, is this villain because she won't come out, because she's, you know, is making Abby, you know, stay in the closet for this sort of Christmas weekend. But you have to watch the movie, you know, because then I watched it again and I watched it from Harper's perspective. And I remembered what it was like before I came out. You remember how scary it is, even though I knew my parents would be fine with it, even though I knew my friends would be fine with it. There's just no going back. What if they're not fine with it? Everything changes. And the fact that Harper is coming out at about 30 years old, you know, at that point she's had, you know, all of this time since she knew that she was gay to build up and to be scared of what people would say. So once you watch the movie from her perspective, you realize that, you know, you can't throw away this relationship that they've had that's been so great for the past year and a half, and you have to understand why she did it. And I don't want to spoil anything, but, you know, it's a happy ending. The movie's called Happy Season for a reason, and you're happy where everybody ends up. And to me, it was just a really great story, and it was nice to see representation on in a mainstream movie that it was a holiday film. I will say though, just the fact that we've had all these great movies like Happiest Season, like Uncle Frank, like Love, Simon, about that are stories about gay people, you know, as the lead characters. All these stories share the theme of them coming out, or somebody's coming out. I am ready to start to see more stories with gay characters where they're already out, where they're just living their lives. I think that needs to be where movies are kind of going in that direction. We've done, you know, the whole, okay, I'm coming out to my parents, this is going to be scary, but they love me for who I am. We've done that now. Let's move on and see some stories of just their lives. So my favorite movie, after I've kind of, you know, said
you don't have to see it now after Marshall. I like we watched it all over again. I mean, I liked it.
Talk about why I love it, because there's so many people, and there was so much, like, the movie came out Thanksgiving time, talking on Twitter saying that, like, oh no, like Abby should be with Riley, should be with Harper. It's like, no, you're missing the point there. So that's why I felt I needed to explain why I loved it so much.
I mean, it was cute. I thought it was cute.
I liked it.
I will say, just because Marshall threw me under the bus saying that I didn't like it, I didn't like hate it. I'm just saying, I felt that it had some tonal inconsistencies in the movie. Like I felt like all of the drama in it was solid. The scene with David Rose, because it was David Rose.
It was David
Rose.
Some
dude named John.
You know,
that you know, in the third act, that was a whole moment, and I appreciated that. The comedy elements were off. They, for the most part, were not funny, and there was way too many people who were very caricaturish, and that was my problem with it. Like, if it wanted to go for like slapstick, farcical, over the top comedy, fine, go there. And I'm not like anti-dramedy, you know, that would have been fine too. But it was just like, you know, here we're having this like super weird race in an ice skating ring, and then, oh, you know, here's this like very dramatic cry moment. You know, I'm like, no, you know, even it out a little bit, sand those edges. But, okay, that's all I got to say about that.
Fair enough.
Tanya kind of agrees with Amy, looks like.
Here's the thing. I don't know what it's like to be gay. And so these stories, I want them to be a little bit, I don't know what I'm wanting them to be, maybe a little bit more organic or something, so that I can kind of know what it is like
maybe
to be
more
gay.
character development or something, because like you can't connect as well with the characters, I feel like. And I feel like that's what, like, was hearing you describe it, Marshall, I'm like, oh, I wish I could have connected to the character like you did, like in that way. And I feel like that was missing when I watched it.
Well, I think here's the thing. I think that when you are gay and you're watching all of these movies, and Hollywood movies especially, all the characters are always straight, and gay people are kind of meant to identify with straight people and sort of see that like this guy and this girl, they're falling in love, and that's kind of what you identify with. And some of my favorite movies are that, and that's fine. I don't necessarily think that but I still love them, even though I don't identify with them. And I don't think that you need to identify with these. I think you're just supposed to look at these characters as characters. And like I said, I do hope that the next movies that are focusing on gay people aren't necessarily about them coming out, because I can understand that it's hard for you guys to understand what it's like to come out. So that makes total sense. But no, I don't think that you need to identify with them. I think that it's because, like I said, I haven't been able to identify, but I'm still able to enjoy.
And maybe that's it. Maybe like I too just want characters who are gay and can live their lives, and so that it's not, and so it's not about the coming out. Like, like watching Modern Family or something, and there's this gay family, and I like, even though they talk about that, like I also just like watching them be a family. And so
I will say that there was a Lifetime movie because there was like a trifecta of Lifetime, Hallmark, and TV Land, movies that all had gay characters. The Hallmark one was awful, and the gay characters were like the third storyline. The TV Land one was fine, but the Lifetime one, which was called The Christmas Setup, I definitely recommend it. And I loved it because the characters were out. They were just living their lives. It's sort of a setup because this one person is gay and this one person's gay, and the person who sets them up thinks that they would be great together. And it was nice to skip the whole chapter. It's kind of like in Spider-Man. We know how Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man. We don't need to see Spider-Man getting bit by the spider again and again. We know that happens. So it was nice to see a gay love story where we know how they become gay. We know that they came out. So let's just move past that and go on. I can see that for sure.
Okay.
So,
on you.
so funny story. You know how Marshall
Happiest season is her number one. No,
Amy always has a story for all her picks.
I always have a story, but you know what?
Sets the mood. This is what I was eating. This is where I was.
Let me grab some more Twizzler bites.
Okay, I'm not going to tell you the whole plot of the movie, so there's that. It's funny that Marshall was like, oh, and Amy's not going to like this pick because Marshall, you're not going to like this pick. My number one movie is Promising Young Woman.
Is it really?
I know everybody, I know all of you guys have seen it, and I know it got some mixed reactions for you guys. I have not, and I know Tessa was just like, it's not a movie I want to watch again. I watched it 3 times. And the fact that I watched it 3 times will let you know that I know that one of the criticisms was that Carey Mulligan is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's so
that the ending sucked. That's the criticism.
It's so my aesthetic. The whole it's all bright and poppy and candy colored, and the soundtrack is freaking amazing, and the acting was good, and the story was good, but then it's like really dark and twisted. So it's like all poppy and happy looking, and then really dark and twisted, and that's just like so me. But the thing is, I know that like Marshall was saying, oh, there's so many plot holes. I feel like everything that's been identified as a plot hole actually has an answer in the movie.
Oh, she's
and
saying
some of them are really subtle, and some of them are
watch it again.
Some of them are probably not satisfying answers to the questions you have.
Can you tell us, without spoiling it, what the different colors tally marks mean? Because that drives me bananas.
I think the tally marks are related to level of severity, and I don't know beyond that.
Why she used the different colors on her fingernails?
I think that was just for fun and aesthetics, and I kind of
to that plot hole, Amy.
I think that was just a really fun manicure, and I kind of want it for myself. And like in a world where there are like openings and premieres, there would be like salons that were doing the Promising Young Woman manicure, and I would be all there for that. Like, hook me up. I do think I liked the ending. I appreciate the people who didn't like the ending.
didn't love it.
Amy, I will say, okay, it's not that I didn't like Promising Young Woman. I liked it enough. I am excited to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there's so much more. There's probably okay. So the plot holes, I don't know if all of the answers are hidden inside the film that maybe I'll still be fine with. I do have some issues with it. I did talk about the movie with a friend of mine who watched it a couple of days ago, and she explained one element to me that I was like, oh, okay, I don't think I caught that. I actually really liked the ending because I thought that, and without spoiling anything, it made perfect sense, whereas a lot of the rest of the movie didn't make sense. Carey Mulligan is fantastic. Bo Burnham is great.
Paris Hilton's great.
Paris Hilton's song is bobbing.
Blind over and over and over again. The fact that you're saying it's your number one movie is definitely making me say I have to rewatch this to see if I can get elements of it more than I didn't the first time around. But yeah, Carey Mulligan is amazing. It's going to be nominated for Oscars. It's popping up on a lot of people's top tens. It's a worthy number one.
I mean,
we'll have to have a conversation off of here about some of the stuff.
I'm with Amy on it though. Like after I saw it, me and her saw it first. And we're both like, I loved it. And I was excited for y'all to watch it. I was like, I can't wait to. So when y'all watched it, you were like, I was like, really? I was like, what? Did we watch the same thing? Because
well, it was kind of like, again,
I didn't like the end either, but just because I wanted to rage again, right? Like it was one of those Uncle Frank moments where I was like, I hate this, but it was so good, you know?
Well, it's just to me, like, same reason why my number 5 was Never. I always get the name wrong. Never, always, sometimes, some days, baby. I don't know. Like that would, like, again, to me, it's a sign of a good movie. Even if it makes you mad, even if it makes you infuriated, if you want to talk about it, you're like, "Have you seen this? We have to talk." And that was what I like. I was watching Promising Young Woman. I was like, life sucks that I'm here watching this by myself, and I need to talk about it with 30 people, and everybody can watch this now. You know, that was my takeaway. You know, and I felt so strongly.
I feel though it's like one of those people either love it or just not, because I watched it with Greg and he really didn't like it. So it is weird how like
I felt like there was too much missing too. But I will go back in honor of it being your number one, Amy. I will give it a second watch here, and
I already watched it twice. I got to watch it again.
You know,
I already watched it once. I don't need to watch it again.
Tanya definitely. Tanya's good, I think.
Tanya gets all the props in the world just for sticking through it.
I know.
I was like, there's a lot of F-bombs in a movie for Tanya.
Without spoiling anything, Tanya, why did you? Because, like I said, I think we both sort of agree on the film, but I thought the ending was perfect, and you didn't like the ending. Without saying,
I don't think I can tell you why I didn't like it without spoiling the ending. But I will say a lot of the reason why I didn't like it is just from the background that I have, like with abuse and victims and all of that. That's one of the main reasons why I didn't like it.
And I think it's important to say that that the movie does have serious tones to it as well, and the whole movie, the premise is based off of something horrible that happened. So while it does look like a really fun like movie that you can sort of watch and have a good time with it and listen to Paris Hilton, there's a very serious premise.
Yeah, it's about sexual assault. Like
it's super dark. It's super dark with this like candy coating on top of it. Which is my not the sexual assault part, but like the whole like.
That's my jam.
Like the whole like things are really bright and poppy and then really dark is like my thing.
Yeah.
Amanda.
My number one. I'm gonna tell y'all this.
What was your
story? Amanda's always got a story.
My number one when I was making my list.
Mm-hmm.
I put this number one right away. I was like, I know what my number one is. And it hasn't moved. That's how much I like this movie.
Okay.
That's good. Well, that was even spontaneous. So.
I saw it either this month or last month.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a new-ish.
Sound of
guess.
Metal. Sound of Metal. Have y'all seen this?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. But
Yeah.
I love
I gotta
it.
Google it
too.
I loved it. It's like, well, do you know the premise? Because it's about like this guy who's like a musician, and maybe too, like he's a drummer, and I was all into it too because Greg's a drummer, and like always, but I know how passionate he is.
Here's a
about
quick
music.
question: what's it rated? Lori's a drummer, and she's into but is it?
It has a lot of bad words. It has a lot of bad words.
Well, that I don't care about that.
Yeah, I don't remember any sex scenes.
That's the only thing I hide from Lori, from my kids.
I don't think there's.
I'm looking up the rating
into
right now.
drummers and stuff lately.
It's rated R, Tessa.
What's what?
It's rated R.
It is. Okay,
But I think the language, was like.
I think Lori will be okay if she doesn't. She'll still go on to be a musician if she wants.
Well, listen, the story, Marshall, did you see it?
I did see it. Yeah.
The story's about this music. You're passionate about your music and stuff, but then he starts to lose his hearing. And the journey it takes you on, I'm telling you, because you are hearing exactly what he's hearing. Like he's starting to hear the muffled sound.
Stuff.
Yeah, you start, and it goes back and forth. Like sometimes you hear like what he's hearing, and sometimes you hear there. But it just like I felt like I was going deaf in it. But that's how immersed I was into the movie. And then the end, like when the end, and then just the way it ended, I had goosebumps. The way it ended, I had goosebumps.
I'll check it out. Where is it?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And you know what? And it also has the Dakota Johnson in it.
not the Fanning.
I don't think Dakota Johnson's in the movie.
Or maybe she's not. Maybe she's not.
Oh my God.
Dakota Johnson was.
She's not in that movie.
Who did you think Dakota Johnson was?
I need to look up the cast now.
Maybe she's not in the movie, right? But it's got Riz. This is the one I'm gonna have a trouble with. I was just looking for names on there when I went to the IMDb's, and I was like, oh, that's one I could say their name.
Riz Ahmed.
Yeah,
I love him from
Are you sure, Dakota? I thought I saw her.
I just forgot. No. Okay, so I think you mean the girlfriend?
No, I know the girlfriend. That was like Olivia
Cook.
Yeah,
that was a hard name for you to say.
But I was like, is she in there? Let's look it up.
Is she like in the background?
No, it doesn't look like she's in the movie, unless I don't remember her. And it was like a cameo that was like not mentioned at all.
Maybe she's not in the movie.
And I don't see her, so.
I will say, I completely agree with the movie that I watched earlier this month. It has stuck with me. Riz Ahmed absolutely deserves to be nominated for Best Actor. The sound design is so brilliant because it truly makes you feel like you were losing your hearing. Like it is just so brilliant how it's done. A movie that I recently watched as well. It didn't make my top 5, but it's called The Father with Anthony Hopkins. And the reason that I'm mentioning this movie is because that movie is all about dementia, and that movie makes you feel it's told, because we've seen so many movies that are told about dementia, but it's always from the perspective of the people who are in their life and not about the person who has it. The Father is told from the perspective of this is what it's like if you have dementia. And Sound of Metal is, he plays a heavy metal drummer, and his ears blow out because of it.
And when I looked up at because he did heroin, and heroin that could be like a side effect too, they say. And so I was like, I didn't learn something there. But
so
don't do heroin.
Tell your kids not to do heroin.
Right? Yeah, maybe Lori can live without this one.
Yeah,
but it's a great movie, and also that the person who plays sort of his mentor Joe. Yeah. He is being talked about for Best Supporting Actor a lot. He plays a deaf person in the movie. He is not deaf in real life, which kind of have an issue with, because I think that you should always, support where you can. But his parents were both deaf, and so he grew up with that. And it's an actor no one's ever heard of before. His name is Paul Raci, and it's a brilliant, brilliant performance.
But also, didn't you think, because I know a couple people who I got the implants. What are they called? The
hearing
cochlear implant.
Well, but what are the cochlear
implant.
Cochlear, that's it. And
cochlear is here.
But the movie also makes you like they look at deafness as not like a disability too, right? And I was like, it just had me looking at things differently. But I'm just telling you, at the end, I had goosebumps just those last moments, right? It was so good. I'm telling you, it's on my list, number one, and it never moved.
Circle.
Oh,
That's what I want to see.
Amy's going to watch it. Amy's going to watch it right now.
Her battery was about to die.
Yeah, but Tessa, Tanya, you both have to watch it. It's a great great movie. Yeah, I don't think your girl should watch it though, Tessa. I think it's too intense
Watch
for them at this point. But yeah, it's a great movie. Great number one, Amanda.
Tanya, beat that.
Well, my number one was already mentioned, so.
Really?
What was your number one?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us.
Do you know what it is?
Oh God!
So,
let me think.
Think. Well, it's not Promising Young Women. Now, it wasn't anybody else's number one then?
No.
It must have been Amy's. Y'all like those boring movies.
Yeah.
Was it Amy? Something.
So my number one was Soul.
Oh, Soul.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So
Amy came back for that.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, so I was trying to find my charger because my laptop's about to die.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, when I first watched it, I think when we got the screener, I remember messaging Tessa and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so boring. Like, I cannot get through this movie." And I think it took me another watch to really, and later even, to really appreciate it. I think because at first, I didn't get it, and I was like, "What is going on here? Like, I don't know what's happening. Why did they take this long to tell me this and whatever?" But I think the more I watched it, I just really appreciated that there's also like there's a spirituality aspect of it, but that doesn't involve God. So, for people who don't believe, then you still have that element of, there's another place where, we may hang out for a while before coming to Earth, or, and then also I just liked, kind of what Amy was talking about. I think it is a movie right now that a lot of people need, especially during 2020 when we haven't left our houses except for me, who has, and when
supporting businesses.
Right.
Well, and when we really haven't been as connected with like family and friends, because I think those relationships are important, but then those are also the people that help you kind of find your spark or help you find your passion, but those are the ones who make up those everyday moments. And so I don't think I cried like I usually do in Pixar movies, but there was, especially the part where Joe was talking to his mom and they were having a conversation. Like that's the part I think that got me, and maybe it's just because of this time too, and the fact that a lot of people haven't been able to see their parents, or for people whose parents have passed away, and all of that. It was just like it's a very emotional movie, and I don't think necessarily it's not aimed for kids, but I do like that it's kind of a more mature Pixar movie. And there was a whole post that I did from like a quote during the press junket about when they were talking about whether Soul was too earnest of a movie, and it was like, was it too earnest? No, but it did take some risks because it wasn't like a Toy Story, like Happier, or even like an Up type movie. And so, but I appreciated that it was different, because sometimes I get tired of the remakes and I like the original stories that Pixar comes up with.
I definitely have to watch it again. And now, because I watched it with the girls, and Lori got like kind of bored at part, and I won't say because it's a spoiler, but I think I told you guys, she was like, well, we already know blah, 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 blah. So why are they making us wait so long? And we're like, Lori, it's the movie. Like, she's like, it's predictable, Mom. I've figured this out.
It is interesting that both of y'all liked it like even more after the second time you watched it.
I know, that makes me want to watch it again because I've only seen it then. And also, honestly, back at the beginning of November, everybody was getting in. Here's my screener. Here's my screener. Here's my screener. Watch it by the end of the year. And and Amanda knows too because we were both in the same boat. I know for sure. We had watching 2-3 movies a day, and your brain just kind of it's a lot with that plus the junkets and everything. So I think it will help to give it another watch when I'm not like. It's not for work. It's to watch it and enjoy it. And I don't have a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So I'm going to try to watch it. You know, I don't have much work. I'm taking this week off more or less. And I think maybe I'll try to watch it like tonight
I'm
or tomorrow.
definitely going to after y'all suggest
like
that.
I talked about
watch it again now.
I actually talked about Lori when I was doing my review because that was kind of my concern when I was watching it as far as kids. Not that there was anything inappropriate unless you have a problem with the baby souls saying hell 20 times. But other than that, you know, I was worried. I was like, is this going to be like too deep for little kids? And when I talked to Tessa about it, and she's saying like, Lori was like, well, yeah, you know what's going to happen. And that's when I realized I was like, you have to think about it on an existential level for you to really appreciate it. And
it's hard for younger kids.
I don't mean that to be like super deep or anything, because I mean, I think, you know, a 10-year-old can think about things existentially. It's just
right. Ivy loved it. Ivy was sucked in from the beginning. And I think a lot of it too, it teaches you to appreciate the small things. And I think this is going to sound awful, but like younger kids, I don't know that they've gone through enough crap for them to like have forgotten about the little things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it just depends too on like on the child, because like Kendall, who is not deep at all, like I caught her while she was like sitting in a corner. I'm like, what are you watching? And she's like, Soul. And I'm like, are you going to wait for anybody else to watch? Because at this time, like the whole family hadn't seen it. She's like, no, I wanted to watch it. So she just hanging out in the corner watching Soul by herself. I'm like, okay, whatever.
I think you bring up a good point too, Tanya, where, because I'm not a religious person, but I do think of myself as a spiritual person. And I think that the movie really highlights spirituality and just believing in sort of not a greater power, but just a greater good, I think.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate that message in a movie like Soul, because obviously we talked about this before, but it has so many similarities to something like Inside Out, which is, you know, one of my all-time favorite Pixar movies. And I definitely did really like Soul, but I think because I saw it early as well, I need to go back and look at it from a different perspective as well, from what you guys were saying, to really appreciate and understand the true meanings inside of the film.
Yeah. I definitely, I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Because like I said, Brett hasn't seen it yet. So, and the girls have been wanting to watch it all together. So, although Brett's like, I heard it's religious and whitewashing. And I'm like, well, okay, but whatever. That's like the headlines you see when you open it up, you know, because I think people are mad about Tina Fey or something. I don't know.
I mean, I got a list of things now to watch just from y'all's suggestions here. I want to watch that Bad Education.
Yeah, I want to watch that too. You guys got to watch Spontaneous. Amy, you haven't seen it?
Yeah, I haven't seen Spontaneous, but I'm going to watch it.
I can't wait to know what you guys think.
Y'all got to watch The Sound of Metal.
Yes.
And I want to watch that one you said, Father. Is it Father?
Oh, the Father, yeah, with Anthony Hopkins.
The Father.
That comes out, I think, in theaters February 26th.
That's another one. That's another one you got.
Yeah. But The Father, it's the kind of movie that you have to just go into, because I remember watching it, and I just watched it a couple of days ago, but being like, I don't understand what's going on here. And then after maybe about 20 minutes, I was like, oh, I don't understand, because it's being told from his perspective.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of like that.
This is how your brain works, and this is why it becomes so difficult. And it, you know, it's a great movie. Anthony Hopkins is fantastic in the role.
Look at this. Anarchy says the funniest movie this year was Death of 2020.
I couldn't add that to my list. They went.
We told Amanda it doesn't count.
I agree with you.
It's not a movie, but it's so funny.
It's good. It's funny, but it's not a movie. It's a comedy special.
Okay, I finally, y'all went and stopped talking about it, so I finally watched that last night. Because I started. It was funny. I will say the lady who was like the anti-vaxxer who
Oh, yeah.
she I know a lot of you were like Lisa Kudrow was my favorite. She was my favorite.
She was good too. Just
The soccer
oh my
mom.
God, this is-
yeah. She's like, I don't inject Facebook into my veins.
I
No,
just
you
didn't
put it in your
like,
head. Leave my house.
it wasn't that funny to me.
Because you don't have humor.
It had little inconsistencies.
Well, it was just like jokes that I swear we've all heard over and over and over this whole year. And so I'm like, okay, again,
Well,
like
there was
I get it.
God, like when they started off with the wildfires, I'm like, that was 2020? Like
Yeah,
that just
no.
feels like so
Yeah,
long ago.
that's true.
Yeah. It's the kind of movie that like or not movie, kind of comedy special that I need to I want to rewatch it again because I think at the beginning I was like just remembering everything and
Yeah.
didn't catch on the humor, but by the time we got to like the more recent stuff, then I was hysterically laughing.
I want to
just love
watch it
this
in like
now.
2022 when it's like when I
Yeah.
have emotional.
And you can laugh more about it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I felt like
watched
I had
it 3
maybe
times.
gotten over some things, and then it just reminded me of some things, and I'm like, oh, dang it! Like,
I feel like it needs to add on to it from some of the stuff happening now. I was like, wait, y'all need to keep on going with this. Do a part 2. Where's my part 2?
I know.
I
It's
liked
crazy.
it.
I like during
thought
the
it was
credits when
funny.
they're saying stuff about 2021.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh. And that's
yeah,
when we got our superpowers. You're like, what? From the vaccines. That was funny.
that was funny.
Yeah, let's talk about this movie once we've all had our second dose, and then we can.
This comedy special.
Our comedy special.
Sorry, comedy special.
Starring Dakota
Some people
Johnson
are
and
so
Dakota Fanning.
pedantic.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, guys, listen, real quick. I'm going to put everyone on the spot. If you could pick, and without, just think about it, the worst movie of the year. Worst one. No real thoughts. I'm going to say, listen, I would say Artemis Fowl, but I have too much pride for that. I'm going to say The Midnight Sky. I would just, because I watched it recently and I hated it and it was miserable.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember though. What was 2020?
I know. Just throw out a bad movie.
For me, it's The Prom.
Yeah, you didn't. That's right. You said that.
Not like The Prom for so many reasons.
I didn't like The Prom either. What else was there out there that I
Wait,
didn't like?
Artemis Fowl.
I don't
Alright.
have any pride about Artemis Files, so I'm just thinking, like, I want to say News of the World and make it a joke, but I actually gave News of the World 3 stars because I thought it was technically okay. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But Artemis Fowl, I think I gave 1.5 stars, and I think that was my lowest rating of the year. Let's go
You
with
rated
that one.
Bloodshot higher than Artemis Fowl.
Oh wait, did I? I probably blood. Okay, wait.
Oh,
I forgot. Bloodshot. I saw it in a theater, and I don't remember theaters anymore. Okay, actually, yeah, Bloodshot. Since that was the last movie I saw in a theater, and I just need to get a vaccine and not die, so I can go to a movie theater again. Yeah. Okay. Let's use Bloodshot.
Oh, I remember a movie I hated that Marshall liked. That he's mad that I started ruining for him. Holiday. I hated that movie.
I liked it. I thought it was cute.
Fun. Here's the thing.
I mean-
the more, like Holiday, like the first half is way better than the second half, but we've had so few romantic comedies this year that like I thought they were so good together, and it was so great seeing Emma Roberts in a role where she wasn't playing like a high school student. I thought it was fun. I can see why you hated it for sure.
It wasn't no Operation Christmas Drop.
That was a cute movie.
I liked Operation Christmas.
I liked
mean,
it too, but I think with Holiday I got mad is because I thought it was gonna be like a Christmas movie, and I was like, "This is all the holidays. This ain't just Christmas."
Yeah.
I was mad at that,
It came
too.
out before Halloween. It's all the holidays.
I agree.
Here, I'll give you my controversial. I think some of you guys liked it. Pick then the Kissing Booth too. Whoa, that was terrible.
Oh, that was bad.
Everybody in that movie was a terrible person. No, I need
that
to.
was bad.
I'm trying to
I
think.
didn't
I
like
don't think
it.
it was that bad, but I don't remember it either. It didn't stick with me.
I'm pretty sure I splatted that one.
The Midnight Sky, because
Wow,
even
that
when she
was
said she was starting to watch it, I was like, "Oh, it was the worst."
Oh, that
But
was
you know what
bad.
else that keeps sticking in my mind? I really didn't like. It was that Katie Holmes one about
Oh,
she had
the
a secret.
dream, Dare to Dream, something.
Oh, I
the secret,
I liked that movie.
secret Dare to Dream.
Yeah, I liked Secret Dare to Dream.
Really?
Yeah, I did
All
like
right.
it. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I never knew until I watched that movie that I did not need to see Joey Potter grow up. If she had died in the creek, I would have been okay with it.
Honestly, you're right. That is if Joey Potter would have lived and
If Joey Potter grew up and was like a super annoying middle-aged woman.
I really thought that I would hate that movie. I thought it was based on The Secret. It's going to be religious. I'm not a fan of all that kind of stuff, but I just thought that the movie was so sweet. I thought they had great chemistry. I really liked it a lot.
You thought there was
Maybe I'll
chemistry?
have to watch
Yeah,
it.
I thought
Well,
that they
I
were.
think they could have been chemistry if Katie Holmes could act.
There was like no the
She was
closest,
like one emotion.
the closest that
Right,
movie
yeah.
could be anybody having chemistry was like the water, the hydrogen, and the oxygen connecting, because that was like it. Everybody else was like,
No,
y'all don't
Katie
know
Holmes
each
just
other.
has one emotion that she plays in every single thing that she's in. It's just like a very
Yeah, that's a good impression.
I will say though that I did an experiment after watching that movie because I thought it was kind of BS. And I was like, let me do an experiment. I'm going to manifest everything. And the only thing it worked on was getting a pizza, because I did manifest a pizza, but that's only because
You did manifest a pizza. I remember that.
Hey, I was in on that pizza send too.
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you, Tanya. Thank you, everybody who sent pizza. Thanks for the
I almost
pizza.
sent it to my house. I was on Domino's and I was like, "Oops, pizza for me."
I'm sorry. I just saw Tessa's phone number on the receipt.
I tried to get rid of it too, and then I was like, "It wouldn't work," and I was like, "Oh," because it would have been much better if you had no clue.
To
I know,
anybody,
I'm sure she would have a clue.
Well, she wouldn't have known which one of us, because
Sorry,
I put it from whoever it was. I don't even remember.
Cherry O'Connell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to everyone who sent me pizza this year, thank you. You have my undying gratitude, and you were a highlight of 2020. And if you need my address to send me more pizza, just ask. Yeah.
That's the way we should end it up. We got to end it now on pizza. I'm hungry.
Pizza. All right.
I know, right?
Well, thank you all for joining us. This was so fun. If you're rewatching this, be sure to comment below with all of your favorites and maybe even your least favorite movie of 2020. Here's to better movies and more movies in 2021. I'm excited for all the movies we were supposed to get.
In movie theaters.
And now we'll see in theaters. I know. All right. Thanks, guys.
It was fun. Thanks.